On November 2, 2014, Philadelphia police received a chilling 911 call that would expose one of the most disturbing kidnapping cases in the city's history. A young nursing aide named Caricia Freeland Gaither was walking home from a birthday party when she vanished into the darkness of North Philadelphia's streets. But what investigators found on security footage defied all logic. A woman being dragged to her fate while fighting with superhuman determination, leaving behind clues that would ultimately save her life and stop a serial killer's murderous spree. What you're about to hear has never been fully revealed until now. This is the story of how one woman's incredible will to survive brought down a predator who had terrorized multiple states, and how a stranger's split-second decision to call for help became the key to saving an innocent life. Philadelphia's North Philadelphia neighborhood had seen its share of violence, but nothing quite like this. The narrow streets of Coulter and Green had witnessed decades of urban struggle, but on this November night, they would become the hunting ground for a monster who had already claimed multiple victims across state lines. The case that unfolded would change everything, not just for the Philadelphia Police Department, but for the FBI's understanding of how serial predators operate in modern America. What investigators discovered would reveal a chilling pattern of abduction, torture, and murder that stretched from Virginia to Maryland, with Philadelphia serving as the tragic crossroads where it all came to a head. 22-year-old Caricia Freeland Gaither embodied everything good about her community. As a nursing aide, she spent her days caring for others, bringing comfort to patients in their most vulnerable moments. Her gentle demeanor and infectious smile made her beloved by colleagues and patients alike. She was the kind of person who would stay late to hold a frightened patient's hand or cover an extra shift when someone called in sick. Caricia lived with her grandmother, the woman who had raised her when her parents couldn't. Their bond was unbreakable. Every morning began with coffee together. Every evening ended with phone calls if they were apart. Her grandmother saw in Caricia the future of their family, a young woman destined for greatness who was already making a difference in the world. On November 2nd, Caricia had spent the evening at a friend's birthday party, laughing and celebrating life as any 22-year-old should. She was building toward something beautiful, planning to advance her nursing career, maybe start a family of her own someday. The community center where the party was held buzzed with the energy of young people who still believed in possibilities. But as Caricia stepped into the crisp November night to catch the bus home, she made a decision that would change everything. She had missed her regular bus and decided to walk to the next stop rather than wait. It was a choice millions of people make every day without consequence. But Caricia had no idea that her decision had been witnessed by someone who had been hunting for exactly this opportunity. The security footage from that night tells a story that still haunts investigators. At 9:39 p.m., everything appears normal. A city bus pulls up to the red light on Green Street, its windows glowing warmly in the darkness. Passengers disembark, heading home to families and warm beds. Among them, a young woman emerges, walking with purpose toward what she believes is safety. But look closer at the footage, and you'll see something that doesn't belong. A dark figure emerges from the shadows just 16 seconds after the bus arrives. Not from the bus itself, but from the street below. This figure moves with predatory precision, crossing to the north side of the street with deliberate intent. The first warning sign comes when you notice the figure's hesitation. This isn't a random encounter. This is a predator studying his prey, calculating the perfect moment to strike. The woman, still visible in the frame, continues walking, completely unaware that her every step is being watched and analyzed by someone who has done this before. As she approaches the intersection, the tension becomes unbearable. The figure follows her through the crosswalk, maintaining just enough distance to avoid detection while staying close enough to act. What happens next transforms from surveillance footage into something far more sinister. But what the cameras captured was just the beginning. What they didn't show was the careful planning that had led to this moment, and the horrifying realization that this wasn't the first time this predator had struck. The second camera angle reveals the true horror of what unfolded on Coulter Street. At first, the interaction appears almost normal. A man approaches a woman. They seem to engage in conversation. She even appears to shake his hand. But within seconds, everything changes. Caricia later described the moment when she realized she was in mortal danger. I shook his hand, and when I tried to let go, I realized that he wasn't going to let my hand go. The handshake becomes a trap. The polite gesture transforms into the beginning of a nightmare. The footage shows Caricia being dragged down the sidewalk, her body language screaming resistance even as she's overpowered by someone much stronger. She fights with everything she has, her feet scrambling for purchase on the concrete, her free hand reaching for anything that might help her escape. But in that moment of terror, Caricia does something that will ultimately save her life. Having watched countless crime shows and movies, she knows that kidnappers typically dispose of their victims' phones immediately. So as she's being dragged toward the waiting car, she makes a split-second decision that displays incredible presence of mind under unimaginable pressure. She drops her phone. Not in panic, not by accident, but as a deliberate act of survival. I thought, either take it with you and he can throw the phone out somewhere where nobody will find it, or keep your phone here where hopefully people that know you know this is something that you usually do and they can find you. The attack happens with terrifying speed. Caricia is forced into a gray Ford Taurus, the car's windows exploding as she desperately tries to escape using a hammer she found under the seat. The sound of breaking glass echoes through the neighborhood, a sound that witness Dwayne Fletcher initially mistakes for gunshots. But the truth is far more disturbing. The glass explodes not from violence, but from a young woman's desperate attempt to signal for help, to leave any trace that might lead rescuers to her location. The investigation began with confusion and false leads. When police arrived at the scene, they found only broken glass, a pair of glasses, and most importantly, Caricia's dropped phone. The footage from the security cameras was grainy and difficult to interpret, showing a dark figure but no clear facial features. Initially, investigators had no idea they were dealing with a serial killer. The man who had taken Caricia was Delvin Barnes, a 37-year-old predator who had been perfecting his methods across multiple states. Just 1 month earlier, he had abducted a 16-year-old girl in Richmond, Virginia, taking her to a remote location where he stripped her naked, poured gasoline and bleach over her, and forced her to watch as he dug what he told her would be her grave. That teenage victim had managed to escape, providing police with crucial details about Barnes' methods and even photographs he had shown her of previous victims. But when police tried to serve an arrest warrant, Barnes had vanished, leaving behind only a trail of terror and a promise to investigators that he would strike again. The breakthrough came 36 hours after Caricia's abduction, when a woman called from Harford County, Maryland, reporting unusual debris on her farm property. The evidence was almost too perfect: candy wrappers, potato chip bags, a cut zip tie, a receipt, and one of Caricia's earrings, all carefully placed in a single plastic bag. But investigators missed something crucial in their initial assessment. The debris wasn't random. It was deliberately placed by Caricia herself during a moment when Barnes had asked her to dispose of trash from his car. Even in captivity, she was thinking like a survivor, leaving breadcrumbs that would lead rescuers to her location. The receipt proved to be the game-changing clue. Time-stamped at 1:50 p.m. from a Philadelphia supermarket, it placed Barnes in the city just hours before the abduction. Security footage from the store showed the same figure from the kidnapping scene, methodically shopping while planning his next attack. What they found next changed everything. ATM footage from a PNC bank showed Barnes using Caricia's debit card, confirming she was still alive and providing investigators with a crucial timeline. But the most important discovery came from an unexpected source: a car dealership in Richmond, Virginia. The final breakthrough came when investigators learned that Barnes' car had been purchased with poor credit, leading the dealership to install a GPS tracking device to prevent repossession. 3 days after the abduction, that device led law enforcement to a strip mall in Jessup, Maryland, where Barnes was planning to steal another vehicle to continue his reign of terror. ATF Special Agent David Cheplack was among the first to arrive at the scene. Searching the parking lot, I came across a gray Ford Taurus. From a distance, I could see there was a black garbage bag covering up a broken window. I knew it was the right vehicle. The arrest happened with surgical precision. As Barnes emerged from the back seat of the car, federal agents surrounded him with weapons drawn. He was taken into custody without incident, having no idea that law enforcement had been tracking his every move. But the most emotional moment came when agents approached the rear of the vehicle, uncertain whether they would find Caricia alive or dead. When they opened the door, they heard the words that brought tears to hardened investigators' eyes. "What is your name?" an agent asked. "My name's Caricia. I'm the one you want." After 72 hours in captivity, enduring repeated sexual assault and psychological torture, Caricia Freeland Gaither was alive. Her ordeal was over, but her courage had accomplished something far greater than just her own survival. It had ended the criminal career of a serial killer who had terrorized multiple states. Barnes ultimately pleaded guilty to federal kidnapping charges and was sentenced to 35 years in prison. During his interrogation, he confessed not only to Caricia's abduction but to details about other victims, confirming investigators' worst fears about the scope of his crimes. For Dwayne Fletcher, the man who had witnessed the abduction and called 911, Caricia's rescue represented redemption. Haunted by the belief that he could have done more to save her, he transformed his guilt into purpose, opening a boxing gym in North Philadelphia where he teaches young women self-defense. When Caricia and Fletcher finally spoke 1 year after the incident, both described the conversation as life-changing. Fletcher had saved her life by calling police at the crucial moment, while Caricia's survival had given his own life new meaning and direction. Today, Caricia is a mother who embraces every moment with her son. The trauma of her experience hasn't disappeared. She still struggles with nightmares and anxiety, but she views her survival as a second chance at life. "I'm happy he chose me," she says, "because when I think about somebody else, I wouldn't want to put them through that." Her story serves as a testament to the power of human resilience and the importance of never giving up hope, even when facing seemingly impossible odds. In the darkest moments of her captivity, when Barnes was describing his other victims and their fates, Caricia held onto the memory of her grandmother's love and the promise she had made to herself to survive. But this case also raises disturbing questions about how many other predators like Barnes are operating across state lines, and whether current law enforcement systems are equipped to track and stop them before they claim more victims. The investigation revealed critical gaps in information sharing between jurisdictions that allowed Barnes to continue his crimes for months after his initial identification. As we continue to follow similar cases across the country, one thing becomes clear. The thin line between survival and tragedy often depends on split-second decisions, community vigilance, and the incredible strength of ordinary people facing extraordinary evil. The Philadelphia Angel case, as it came to be known, reminds us that even in our darkest moments, hope can prevail, and that sometimes the most important thing we can do is simply refuse to give up.